Hi, friends. It's me, Curtis, and I'm with my new friend, Joe. Tell me your whole name, Joe.
Joe Dittmar.
Joe Dittmar. Joe, and I heard Joe speak today here in Alaska, and I'm going to try not to tear up when I talk about it. And Joe, tell everyone what.
Yeah, I have a story, and mine is one that hits near and dear to a lot of people's heart because, especially those of you who are older than 25 years of age. I was a survivor from the 105th floor 2 World Trade Center, one of 7 out of a group of 54 people in the meeting I was in to survive that day. And as you can imagine, it's a harrowing story, but also one that is worth talking about because, it's my goal in life. Like I had said to your group earlier today, we can't forget. We can't afford to forget. We got to always remember.
Joe, I love that. And, I recorded your speech, your talk, and I'm going to do some edit to it. I want to give it to you and your family and your grandkids. Joe and I both are pops.
That's right. That's right.
Your grandson call you pop?
And I'm pops or pops.
Okay. Yeah. My kids called my father Pop.
Okay.
Like Grandpop.
Yeah.
His son calls me Pop.
Oh, there you go.
It's so funny, and it's just I just love that. So, Joe and I shared some things like One World, the North Tower was where Windows of the World was. And I was telling Joe earlier that a month before the 9/11, I was up at Windows. Michael LaMonaco, the great chef there, dear friend of mine, like you, had made one of those decisions on his way in, and it saved his life. And a lot of the people that we knew up in the towers didn't make it. Part of the story you told today is something that I didn't realize until the way you framed it and the way you shared. The fact is that we won't ever forget those 3,000 souls, 3,000 plus, right?
That's correct.
That we lost that day. You reminded us of how many people that, because of those great firefighters and police officers, how many people were saved. Can you share that?
That's true.
Joe? That was just.
Once you're part of something like that, you immerse yourself in all the information, right? And one of the things I found out relatively early on was that there could have been as many as 50,000 people inside both of those buildings at the time that the events occurred. That was about the maximum that the 2 buildings could or would hold. So if you do that simple math, if 3,000 or just under 3,000 people perished there at that site, we're not talking about the Pentagon or Shanksville,
right?
And you know that just under 400 of those under 3,000 were firefighters, police, paramedics who went there on purpose, okay?
We try to honor them every single day, not just on 9/11. We try to live up to the expectation that they set. They had airplanes hanging out of buildings and nobody turned around and walked away. So we could never live up to what they did, but we try to live in their shadows.
Everything you got to the World Trade Center now.
On 9/11, my father was a battalion chief. My brother Jimmy was a firefighter. My brother Timmy was a police officer. I was in high school. My brother Danny was in college. I remember being very proud that my brother was going to try to help a lot of people. Me, my father, and my brothers, we actually carried my brother out. He was last seen in the lobby with a woman, and they were staying there to stay with the woman and protect her. And when we found him, he was with a woman in a Stokes basket. You have to try to live up to the goal that they set. We may never get there, but I think in my own life, I try not to dwell on the terror side of it. When I talk to my children, I explain to them when I have them down at the site that it was the greatest rescue mission we've ever seen. After 9/11, the fire department came together. They took care of their families, and they made sure that their families had the presence of the fire department in their lives, and I think that's an important part of the job. I think never forget, to me, it means passing it on to the next generation. As we live through it, like my own children, they have to understand the enormity of the day, the guys that stepped up to recover the brothers that are sick now, and it's remembering everything.
Purpose, okay? That meant that only 2,600 people who had no clue what was going on, perished, and that means that almost 47,000 people survived that day. And I have people that I know
Right.
that there was some kind of a dental firm on the second floor of the South Tower, and they had a dental appointment that day, and they were in the South Tower, and they got out, and they were, yeah, well, we're not really survivors. We came out of the second floor, and I said, wait a minute, you were there,
Exactly.
right?
You survived.
You
yes.
survived.
Joe, it's
give yourself
amazing.
that credit.
Yeah,
You know?
Exactly. The
Yeah.
fact is that, and like the way Joe framed that today, because again, I had been in those towers so many times. I used to live in New York, and I worked in New York in the early 80s, and I used to deliver food, produce to those towers. And you mentioned the 93 bombing.
Right.
And I remember that vividly.
Sure.
When that happened. And so like you were sharing about the security at 1 and 2 World Trade Tower. Could you share a little bit about that? How when you checked in and
I was thoroughly amazed by the fact that the women and men that did security there could basically know who belonged or didn't belong in the building simply by looking at your face.
Right.
Not your ID card, not anything else. It was amazing because so that means that if they didn't recognize you, they were going to approach you,
out,
and
right?
that's exactly what happened. I mean, the
Wow.
guy gave me the, hey, you're visiting, right? I said,
The
yes,
New York
I am.
wand.
Oh yeah, the wand, the wand. 2 fingers, actually. Come on over, and they did what they had to do, and I think they were that on top of their game because of 93. I think that 93 was the first salvo for them to say, we got to be more careful. There are so many people in these buildings,
The town I live in, Novato, California, we're just over 50,000 people.
All right.
Can you imagine, there's a whole city in those 2 towers.
Each of those buildings had their own zip code.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, it was a city within a city. And, there's a lot of people that now think about, is there merit to building tall skyscrapers like this and putting people in there to work? Then, of course, COVID came along and nobody went to any place,
Right.
okay? And now we're going back again, and people are starting to talk about that again.
Exactly.
Do we need to be smarter? Do we need to be more secure? I mentioned Aon, was the organization that I was mentioning, one of the largest commercial insurance brokers in the world. And the other one, Marsh, is the other big one that they compete with. Those 2 firms alone lost close to 1,000 people that day in both those towers. Those 2 firms alone. And they both made a decision after that they would no longer have more than 100 people at any one location at any time, because they can't afford to lose their staff like that.
That's things like that we don't think about, right? And that's how it changed the whole world. Joe, so being a little personal, your wife Betty does not like attention, right?
That's correct.
And so how do you balance that between I don't know the exact word to say what you do. You're like this historian, the way you share what you went through. And it's important. You made a correlation to like hearing a Holocaust survivor.
Right, when I was a kid.
When you were a kid, hearing that, right? And for me, being a Black person from the South, and hearing the voices of people formerly enslaved, hearing those voices. But so I think the last person that died in the 60s that was enslaved in the South. So there's this direct correlation to history.
Yeah.
You're living history.
Yeah. I'm laughing because my son uses that phrase with me all the time. You're a living history, Dad. I said, thanks for making me feel that old,
This to your son. And how many times do you think you've shared your experience?
Thousands. I can't even begin to think. At one point, I've been doing it for 24. We're in our 25th anniversary year this year, but I've been doing it for 24 of those years. I did my first one close to the first anniversary. And at its peak, I was doing maybe up to 60 presentations a year.
Wow, that's like 1.25 a week. Almost.
That's exactly right.
So,
and I was doing that while working.
Right.
So,
I got a lot of questions come to my brain from this. First, this is very personal because I had such an intimate, close with those buildings. First time I visited them was back in the early 80s,
Right.
and would go up as a tourist on the platforms and looking up and think how amazing it was, and then working there, making deliveries and all that, right? So after the devastation of 9/11, it took me the longest time to visit the site. How was
Sure.
that for you?
I had just the opposite experience. Being in the insurance industry and being that New York was always a central part of anything that was going on in the States and in the world, right? Yeah, right. I was back to New York. It had to be. I'm not exactly. It was right after the plane started flying again. It was like 20 days,
Wow.
and I had to fly back to New York.
Wow.
Now, as you could imagine, I was just a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I know. I remember my first flight. It was wild after 9/11.
And we all had those immediate stereotypical things that we were doing. Like if we saw somebody that had a turban on, we were like, oh, right away, oh,
Right.
and you had to fight that off. You had to really fight that off, because that's exactly what we learned that day, is that 1% of the people are doing 99% of the bad stuff, and the rest of the world is a pretty good place. You know?
Amen.
So when you make those stereotypes, it's not good. So you're fighting that off, and I'm flying, and then I get to New York, and I have no idea where they had set me up to stay, and I'm staying at the hotel that's right across the street from Ground Zero, and I'm like, oh my God! And my room is looking out onto Ground Zero. So I had called my wife. And I said, I don't think I can stay. I said, I think I got to do something.
PTSD, right?
Right. Well, you don't know, right?
You don't know, right?
And so she was the one who said, I think you ought to just take a breath, think about it a minute, and decide whether you really want to go or not, move or not. I said, okay. So I went down across the street, walked around Ground Zero, saw some amazing things there, and decided, yeah, you know what? I got to stick here. If you remember, right after it happened, there was a lot of fencing.
Yes.
Okay. And then there was a lot of plywood that was built up to kind of form walls.
Mm-hmm.
And all those walls, they were just plain plywood. They didn't paint them. There were people with Sharpie pens or whatever that would come, and there were notes on those boards that were unbelievable. I miss you, Mom. I love you, Dad. These are messages from people who lost somebody. Of course, all the pictures of the people that were still missing and people looking for them, but just all these messages of love and concern and of sorrow. And I thought to myself, well, these people are living that.
They're living that every day. Yeah.
I got out. I'm in a hotel. I'm still doing my business. What the hell am I worrying about? You know, and that's. I went back and I stayed that night and the next night and was fine. But I felt that the visit and the many visits I had to New York were always inclusive of a walk around the block. I would go and do it because it helped. It helped.
I'm so glad you shared that with me. And I've been, like I said, the first time I got there, I walked around. And before going in, and I talked to one of the security guys. Ooh, I'm just, whew.
Yeah.
And I went up to the security guard, and she was so loving.
Yeah.
She was so supportive. And I said to her, I don't know if I can go in. And she gives me this hug, and she says, "Don't worry. If you will be able to go in when the time is right."
Yeah.
She says. And then we talked. I shared with her some of my history with the buildings.
Sure.
And, you know, I used to love seeing those two towers.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? You fly in.
Absolutely.
For folks who have never seen them, it's like the New York skyline with those towers. Yeah.
Right there.
Right there.
Yep.
And so she gives me this hug, and she says, don't worry, baby. You can come when this time is right. So I think it was 3 or 4 more visits before I could actually go in and look at the memorial. I think they did such an incredible job with it. It's just beautiful. My fiance Lisa and I we got a chance to tour the whole thing and see the firefighter exhibits and just. So Joe, meeting you, I know God brought us together. Just because it's one of those things. You have a strong faith.
If you don't believe in divine providence after that, you're not going to believe. So
you're not going to believe.
Because listen, I would never be accused of being the best religious guy in all the world, but I am a believer that there is a God.
Amen.
That God controls everything that happens, and that He's got a reason for people to do things sometimes. And I really do think the reason that God had for me was to continue to talk about this so people wouldn't forget about it.
Amen. And I want to help you echo that. So the question I have is like, how do people reach you if they want you to come talk to kids? And you tell us earlier, and again, we're not going into Joe's story because I want him to share that with you. What I want to do with your and Betty's permission is edit what I recorded. I recorded the whole speech, and I was sharing with Joe that because of the logistics, I didn't get in time to get everything set up. So there's some movement. So what I would love to do, again, with your permission, before I show this to anyone, you and Betty need to see it. I have a picture of the towers that was sent to me about a month and a day, or just less than a day to a month, being in the towers. I was in the towers that day visiting Michael and some friends, Michael and Monica, and I had a meeting on the floor underneath the restaurant. And I'm sitting right in the corner looking at the Statue of Liberty. It's just beautiful. And I remember seeing a plane fly under, and we talked about the plane flying under. And I'm thinking, like, Mike, we are so high. We're in the clouds.
Clouds, right? So exactly, yeah.
And then, so my friend who's in Jersey, that day, I didn't know she was there. She took a picture of the towers, the day I'm in the towers. And months later, she sends me this picture, Joe, and it's just, and you can see this cloud above anyway. So I want to put that in there.
Sure.
And I would love to put pictures of you when you were a younger man. And Betty said there were some photographs of you when you first got home. So,
absolutely.
And I love to, whatever you want to share, whatever you feel like sharing, I want to put in the clip.
Yep.
And send it to you. But if you say you talk with school kids, you talk with high schools, college kids, how do people reach Joe?
Well, I mean, I used to have a website, and I would have given you the website address, but
too many requests.
No. It got scammed.
Oh,
yeah, and it's just unbelievable. There are people, unfortunately, that want to pick on people. Now, I would tell you this: the way to get me. You have my info now, okay?
Gotcha.
And that email address or that phone number, I don't care if anybody knows it, because if they want to get me, that's how they can get me.
All right, when we do things, I'll put it on the video if you want. Also, what I would love to do, I can have my web person design you a new website that won't be hacked. Right. I would love to do that for you, Joe.
I got to tell you, with the hacking, just to finish that hacking thing, because it's so weird. What had happened was, if you Google my name, you're going to see 1,000 things come up because I've done so many presentations. People will record. People say, "Do you care?" I say, "I don't care." The more the story gets out there, the better it is.
I love that. I love that.
This is not my job. This is not my profession. This is my passion. Okay, so this is what I do because I feel it's my job to do it. Right?
And I feel that in you, Joe. That's.
But I had a person who insisted. And there's a lot of this that goes on, that I was a put on, that I was an actor, that I was paid to do this, and that they had proof, and they showing pictures of a guy that didn't really look anything like me, okay? And this person just kept getting into my website and causing such angst, and I finally just pulled it. I said, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore.
Exactly, and you don't have to. And people like that, shame on them.
And honestly, you were able to hear the story today.
Yeah.
You were able to come up and get the information you wanted so that you could contact me.
Right.
That's how easy it is. Perfect. That's number one. And number two, it's all word of mouth, man.
I gotta share something. I want folks to know this. Like, Joe doesn't charge a dime for this.
That's correct.
So whoever is doing that stuff, okay, I'll share with you, right? I don't know if you heard my talk yesterday. Didn't learn to read till I was 26. So I had someone. I'm blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, how about
we
it?
both are, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right.
And when y'all hear Joe's story, he's on that 105th floor in a dark room that no windows out, yet he's here today sharing this with us. Like, how dare someone to say you're lying?
Oh, I know.
How dare someone to say that, right? It's
Yeah.
like, how dare someone to say the Holocaust didn't happen?
Oh,
How
this was
dare?
exactly what it was like.
Right? It's like, how dare they? Walk a mile in my shoes.
Yeah.
Walk a mile in your shoes. It's like, and I share with people, my life, the things that have happened to me, I'm so blessed. If I hadn't lived it, I might think I was lying. You know what I mean? Joe? But that's what I'm saying to you. Like, who am I to say, Joe, in hearing you, anyone who hears you speak knows you're speaking from the heart.
I've done enough presentations that I've had enough circumstances of people just right there in an audience who will ask a question, and the question is pretty much, are you full of baloney, or and I learned how to handle that. Right. I also have people who want to turn this into politics, and I can't do that. This isn't about politics. This isn't about a debate. Betty told me today, Betty never sits in the same room as I'm speaking, because she really
she can't handle the stuff. Because our women can really be protective of us.
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly. So she was sitting in the lobby of the place we're here today, and there was some guy saying, "Oh, great, just what we need, another motivational speaker." And she said she didn't say anything, and she didn't want to, And she goes, "Oh, 9/11. Oh, like that wasn't a government put on."
Someone actually said that?
And you're like, okay, really? But they're around, man.
They're around.
The conspiracy theorists, but it's that 1%. And people say, oh, you're underestimating. I'm not. Teachers, school teachers, are famous for saying 5% of the kids cause 95% of the problems.
Right.
That's true in life.
That's true in life. Yeah.
That's true in life.
It's so wild. But it's so interesting for people that Joe, we got it's a great thing going on here. And I told them I'd take 5 or 10 minutes. Now we're 20 minutes later. And
that's okay.
But the thing I really want folks to know is this brother speaks from the heart, and it's something that we need to hear. I still get a little choked up when I'm in New York, no matter what.
Oh, sure.
Listen, and to hear you tell the story. One thing that I want you to share, like, you're on 105th floor, and when Joe talked about having to come down those stairs, and I remember those, taking the elevators up and having to switch over. I remember the express elevators and all that. I'm thinking to myself, my God, 105 floors down, right?
Back, forth.
How was that? I mean, you with 50, 60, how many people in there going down with you?
Oh man, there were probably don't forget, we were at the highest occupied level. Right. So we're one of the last groups of people coming by and getting past the 78th floor, or the 82nd floor, actually, like I had mentioned. So there's maybe 100,
the place is packed.
Oh yeah, but not so packed that it's scary. And like I had mentioned to you, the thing that was really interesting for us was, you were watching the TV. Yes. You knew what was going on.
Yes.
We had no clue.
We
were right there, and we had no clue.
I'm in San Francisco when it happened. 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm getting ready to do interviews on PBS. On not PBS, but on NPR.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was set up to do these radio interviews. So the producer in Washington says to me, "Are you watching television?" It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't have a TV. Turn the TV on. I turn it on, and there's this shot of a plane going. And I said, and I quote, "What's this stupid movie you have me watch? I don't want to watch this." No, that's real.
That's
I said, "What?"
And
then the phone line went dead. Boom. And I'm sitting there with my coffee, my notes, and I'm holding the coffee, just dumbfounded, looking at the television, going. And she says, "This is real." I'm like, "This is really happening?" And I couldn't move.
Yeah, there were people there that day, and that I mentioned this in the presentation, that were in the building that couldn't move. They were, I think, people say it's hard to believe. I said they were shocked, or I said, but I think there were a group of people who were literally mesmerized in the South Tower by what they saw in the North Tower, and found it hard just to move.
When you shared that, it was bone chilling. And when you saw that fuselage or that rear of that plane sticking out, I'm like, oh, that's so it's like, okay, this can't be real.
Right. Right.
So, Joe, here you are, and you shared this story is so impactful because, and you like, okay, you think about all the people in those buildings, and then you said when you felt the plane hit the South Tower and the building swayed. I've been in earthquakes, and so I know that it's different.
Yeah, right.
However, similar, right?
Right,
So,
exactly. It's got to be. I've never been in an earthquake.
Right.
You've never been in a building
building
that
like-
got
yeah.
attacked, okay? But I equate it all the time. I do the same thing that you do because it has to be the same thing where something's shaking the way it shouldn't be shaking.
Shouldn't be shaking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know?
So that, oh my! And you said the railings crumbled. I mean,
The railings broke away from the wall. The concrete started spidering out, like you see those, like you would see in a movie, lines
Yeah.
because everything's breaking apart. And the most impactful thing was the steps going like this. They're going like this.
and then when it finally stopped, was it minutes, seconds? I mean, but it felt like forever.
It
right?
felt like forever. I always say it may have been 60 seconds. It may have been a lot less, but it was an incredible feeling. And yeah, even though there's these 100 people in the stairwell with you, and you think everybody's going to be screaming, everybody was just so stunned, didn't know what to say or do.
Say or do, right?
What to say or do.
I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to share with folks. It's like I love my mother. We lost mom a few years ago, and in African American and Black culture, we say as long as you talk about somewhere, they stay alive.
Right.
They live on, right?
Right.
And I know you lost your mom last year. However, you shared something that was so much was impactful in your talk today. When you said you had this feeling of, I just want my mama.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. I mean, there is no better way to describe it. I think that in the deepest crevices of our hearts and souls, the person that brought us into the world is the person that you think of the first when you have when you're in a times of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I was like, I just want to. I want my mom. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And my wife could get offended by that. My kids could get offended by that. My dad could. None of them did because they all understood it too. They understood exactly what I was talking about.
And it's interesting because my mama had 6 kids, and we all thought we were her favorite. I'm 67 years old, and I'm still a mama's boy.
Oh yeah, hey, listen, you and me both. I
get you.
When my mom, the last couple of years of her life, she had spent in an assisted living facility.
Right.
Unfortunately, she had circumstances that were beyond Betty and my pay grade for all intents and purposes, because she had been living with us for 14 years after my dad passed. But it was hysterical. I'm in my 60s, and my mom's still telling me, "You talk too loud," or "Don't chew your food that way."
I know.
You're like,
that's her.
wait a minute,
Yeah,
mom, I'm 64.
Mom says, I'll share one with my mom. I had some surgery in my 40s or 50s. I don't know. I'm getting old, right? And this is a mother's love, right, Joe? That I came home from the hospital, and my mother took care of me. And I'll never forget my mama. And looking up, and she giving me the sponge bath, and I'm a grown man, and I just remember looking at them. I just love you so much, man. Joe? And here we are. We're celebrating our mothers because Mother's Day is this weekend or next weekend? Next weekend. So we want you to know, celebrate your mama, right? No matter what happens.
I said, love your mothers. Always love your mothers because they're always there for you, and that is true. And I say it especially to the men because a lot of times, guys, you're not as common as you would like to think you are, because a lot of guys think, I'm a grown man now. Hey, guess what? Love your moms because they're always going to love you.
Well, it's interesting. And we're going to wrap it up on that because Joe, I want to point out a couple things. Great. I love your shirt, your hat with the tower, with the towers on it, and then your 9/11 pin. It's just absolutely.
The 9/11 pin was given to me by my sister-in-law after the first anniversary. These were minted by a jeweler in Philadelphia at his cost. All the proceeds that they got from the sale of these pins went to the Shanksville Memorial because they were getting no state, federal, local funding. So it's another story in and of itself, but it's also a way. it's an icebreaker, as they say in the speech business, right?
Right,
It's an
right.
icebreaker because people will say, "Oh, your pen, I like your pen.
And you can
Oh,
tell.
you have a connection? Oh, yeah, I was a survivor." And the next thing you know, 45 minutes later, I'm walking
Yeah,
away. But
yeah.
that's okay
Yeah.
because, like I said to you before, that's what I do.
Joe, I hope people appreciate you as much as I do. You're a hero, brother.
Well, I'd like you to say, that's nice of you to say. I'm just doing it, like I said, for 3,000 people who lost their voices. We're giving it back to them.
We're going to keep them alive.
That's right.
Everybody, Joe Dittmar, one of the most incredible human beings I've had a chance to shake hands with and hear speak. If you get a chance to hear him talk, please have him there. All right. As I always like to say, may the God of love bless you, your family, and everybody watching us.
Thank you. Thank
you, brother.
All right.
Joe, you're great. You're just an incredible man, and I want you to know that.
I only heard